We continue now at the top of Daf Gimel Amud Aleph in Meseches Kiddushin. This is Kiddushin Daf 3a. The Gemara is continuing to discuss why the Mishnah will sometimes use the word derech instead of the word davar. And the Gemara refers now to a Mishnah about esrog. It says in the Mishnah that the esrog is like yerek b'derech echad in one way. Why does it choose to say derech and not davar? And the Gemara says to that, Hasam over there, Hakamash Malon, it's teaching us the darche de esrog ki yerek, that the way of an esrog is like a yerek, is like a vegetable. My yerek darko li godel al kol mayim, just like a vegetable grows on all water, meaning aside from rainwater, it requires irrigation as well. Uveshas likitasu isura, and also in terms of the chiyuv of meiser, that goes by the time that it's harvested. Af esrog, so too when it comes to an esrog, darko li godel al kol mayim, it grows through all water, it requires irrigation aside from rainwater. Uveshas likitasu isura, and at the time that it's harvested, it goes by that point in time that the chiyuv meiser sets in. And Rashi explains, Hasam hakamash malon de tamdos linan be'achar lakita misham orcha de milsu. The reason why we follow the lakita, the reason why we follow the time that it's harvested, is because that's the derech eretz, that's the way of the world. Memnesha darko li gadol al kol hamayim, its way is to grow on all waters. Shemashkino so b'mayim shu'uven, they water it, they irrigate it, ki yerek, like a vegetable. Dahainu time ad yerek, that's the reason by yerek. Kedamar b'rosh Hashanah goren v'yikev ksiv gabe meiser kedogen min agoren. Magoren v'yikav miyuchodin shegedelan al rov mayim dahainu geshamim. When it comes to goren and yikev, so over there we say that it grows on rainwater. U'misasrin acharei hashana she'avra, and the meiser follows the previous year. Kedamrinan b'rosh Hashanah das linan b'asar shana shehiviu shlish. We follow the year that it grew a third. Shehiviu shlish ba v'lo achar likita. So we don't follow the harvesting. V'alfinan lamikroy, we learned that out from Sukkim. Avkol shegedelan al rov mayim, that's true by anything that grows on rainwater. Dahainu ilonos, that refers to trees. Misasrin l'sha'avar, the chiyuv meiser is determined on the past, on what grew in the past. V'afagav de meiser ditu d'rabbanan, who now even though the chiyuv meiser there is d'rabbanan, asmechinu akroy, for that we rely, it's like an asmachtan psukim, yotzu yurakos, and that comes to exclude vegetables, shegedelan al kol mayim, that they're irrigated, mesaser l'shana haba, so there the chiyuv meiser is not going on the past year, but it's going on the coming year. That's what we mean to say when it goes by shas likita, so it goes by the time that it's harvested. And when we talk about the time for the chiyuv of meiser, the nafkamina would be, for example, in determining what year is this. Is this a year of, let's say, meiser sheni, or is it a year of meiser ani? So we have to determine at what point in time is the chiyuv meiser. If you go by the time of harvesting, so you have to say, when was it harvested? Was it harvested during a year of meiser sheni, or meiser ani? Or if you're going by the time that it grew a third, then you follow that particular point in time. That's the nafkamina here in terms of at what point in time is the chiyuv meiser. And the Gemara continues, v'hadetnan, but what about that which we learned in the Mishnah, koi, when it comes to the creature called a koi? Yesh bo derachim shava l'chaya, in some ways it's like a chaya, like an undomesticated animal. V'yesh bo derachim shava l'behema, and in other ways it's similar to a behema, to a domesticated animal. V'yesh bo derachim shava l'chaya l'behema, in some ways it's like both a chaya and behema. V'yesh bo derachim sheino shava lo l'chaya v'lo l'behema, and in other ways it's not like a chaya or like a behema. So again the Gemara asks, nisni devarim, why does it say derachim? It should say devarim. V'su, and furthermore, hadetnan, that which we learned in the Mishnah, zuachas min haderachim sheshavu gitei nashim l'shechrurei avadim. This is one of the ways that gitei nashim are similar to shechrurei avadim. Again, nisni devarim, why don't we use the word devarim instead of derachim? And so the Gemara instead gives a different answer altogether. Ela, rather, kol heichad diika pluksa. Anytime we're making distinctions, tani derachim, then we use the word derachim. V'chol heichad deleka pluksa, and anytime we're not making distinctions, tani devarim, then we use the word devarim. And the Gemara says, Dekanami, we have a proof to this as well, the Katani Sefer, because it says at the end, Rabbi Eliezer Omer Esrog Shave Li'ilan L'chol Davar. Rabbi Eliezer says an Esrog is like a tree for all matters, and there he uses the word Davar because he's saying across the board it is like an Elon, so the word Davar is appropriate, and the Gemara says Shema Minah. Indeed, you see from that really is what determines whether we use the word Derech or the word Davar. Rashi says, "Deika pluksa chiluk b'deracha b'derech zuhu doma lakan u'v'derech zu eino doma," meaning there's a distinction. In this way it's similar, in this way it's not similar. Kagon masnisan begimel derachim lemutei chuppah, 3 ways of kiddushin, not chuppah. These ways it work, this way it doesn't work. Chuppah de lokanya, chuppah doesn't work. U'dezav, that's true by zav also. Hachiyudah ve'ones laziva v'lo ones acher. This is an ones, not something else. U'degitin be'elu shave v'lo b'omer tnu get zel ishti u'shtar shachar zel avdi. The choser get. Ve'eno chozer b'shichror. In this way, gittin are similar to shtar shichror. In other ways, they're not similar to shichror. The zachin lo ladan shelo b'fanav. There's a distinction over there in the situation of, let's say, tenu get zel ishti and shtar shichror zel avdi. By get he retracts. By shichror there's no retraction. And the Gemara then said, Dekonami, we have a proof to this. That if there's no distinction being made, if it's across the board, we use the word davar. Again, that's what we see when we bring the end of that Mishnah by Esrog. According to Rabbi Eliezer, Esrog is like a tree regarding all matters. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, Minyana dereisha lemu'ute mai, Minyana deseifa lemu'ute mai. The number at the beginning of the Mishnah, what does that come to exclude? And the number at the end of the Mishnah, what does that come to exclude? Rashi says, Minyana dereisha gimel derachim. It said there are three ways of Kiddushin. And Minyana deseifa v'kones atzma v'shtei derachim. It said that she acquires herself, she leaves the marriage in two ways. What are those numbers coming to exclude? And the Gemara says, Minyana dereisha, the number at the beginning of the Mishnah, lemu'ute chuppah, like what Rashi just explained, to exclude chuppah, that chuppah is not considered a kinyan in terms of Kiddushin. Rashi says, lemu'ute chuppah shemisara lo avia lechuppah l'shem Kiddushin. If her father gave her over to the chuppah for the sake of Kiddushin, eina mikudeshes bekach. That would not be considered a Kiddushin. Chuppah does not affect Kiddushin. And the Gemara continues, Ula Rav Huna, but what about according to Rav Huna, Damar Chuppah Kona? Rav Huna actually says Chuppah is Kona, so Mikal V'chomer, he says it's Kona based on a Kal V'chomer, Lemu'ute Mai, so what is the number in the Mishnah excluding according to him? And the Gemara says to that, Lemu'ute Chalipin, it excludes a Kinyan Chalipin. Sal Gadai T'chamina, I might have thought, Hoel V'gamar Kicha Mistei Ephron, since we learn out the whole idea of Kiddushin, we learn it from the word Kicha by Stei Ephron, Masada Mikniya B'chalipin, you might have thought, just like a field can be acquired through Chalipin, Afisha Nami Mikniya B'chalipin, so too a Kinyan can be used, a Kinyan Chalipin can be used by Kiddushin, by a woman, Kamash Malon, so that's what the Mishnah is teaching us, these are the three ways, and Chalipin is not effective. And the Gemara says, Ve'ema hachanami. Gemara says, maybe we should indeed say that Chalipin is effective. And the Gemara says, Chalipin isnu b'pachos mishava pruta. The reason why Chalipin cannot be effective is because Chalipin works with something that's even worth less than a pruta. V'isha b'pachos mishava pruta, and that's not going to happen. That should not be effective by a woman to use something that is less than a shava pruta. And Rashi says, Rav Huna lekaman b'shmait, and Rav Huna's shita about chuppah will be later on. Chalipin kinyan sudr. Chalipin refers to a kinyan sudr. You lift up the scarf, and through that you make a kinyan. Masada mikniya b'chalipin d'chsiv v'yishlof nalo v'asam sada havi. We have a source in Sefer Rus that a sada can be acquired through chalipin. Chalipin isnu b'pachos mishava pruta. Chalipin can happen even less than a shava pruta. Dekaimalan b'perak hazav. We've established in perak hazav and bab metzia konin b'kli afal pi she'eno shava pruta. You can make a kinyan with a kli even if that kli is not worth a shava pruta. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Gimel Amud Beis.